Good morning, everyone. My name is Aracil, and today I'm going to be talking about how we performance test SharePoint implementations at Testhouse. So, yesterday Michal talked about testing in general, and he actually mentioned my presentation from today. Unfortunately, I'm only going to cover the performance testing side of SharePoint and not the overall testing. So I just wanted you to be clear. So we also do generic testing on SharePoint, but I'm not going to cover it today during my presentation. So it will be just about performance testing. So let's start by having a look at the agenda for today's presentation. I'm going to start talking about Testhouse and our testing capability. So since this is a partner event, I thought it would be interesting for you to know what Testhouse does, because I believe everything is about synergies between companies, and obviously Testhouse is a fairly niche company. We only do testing, so maybe you might be interested on talking to us and maybe do some projects together where you like the experience in testing. I'm going to carry on talking about what performance is from a performance testing point of view. Before I go into the details of our tool, the MOS Scalability Pack, this is the tool we actually use at Testhouse for performance testing MOS implementations. And we'll wrap up the session with a Q&A section. Now, let's start by introducing Testhouse. Testhouse was established in year 2000, and I actually work for the Madrid office, but we have a global coverage. So we've got offices in Germany, in the States, in Emirates. We also have a great offshore in India with very, very detailed guys down there. So, this might be very interesting for you. I'll talk about it a bit later. We only do software testing, as the name implies, Testhouse, just testing. We don't do any developments, we don't do any implementations. So, obviously we've been running for 10 years, so we must be doing our testing right, since it's our only means of income. So, I think that's a proven in-depth expertise, right? So let's talk very quickly about our unique sales proposition. So first thing I want you to be aware is that we are very flexible. So we can work on site, we can work off-site, we can do offshore things like sending your scripts to India, for instance, and we can also do what we call the nearshore. So this is especially interesting here in Europe, where many of you come from countries where the daily rates are quite high compared to the ones we currently have in Spain. So many times it makes sense to have a team deployed in Spain, where we are just a few hours fly away from you guys. So you might want to consider that. We are also very cost effective compared to other companies offering the same services, and we believe that is because we offer best practice in software testing services. So we know what we're talking about, and the chances of us having seen the same kind of problem, the same kind of environment before are quite high. So we don't have to waste time just kind of trying to figure out how do I do a scripting against this tool, or how do I do this or that. So we just go and deliver. That's it. So we also have a broad project and technologies experience. So we not only focus on SharePoint. Okay, so we've been doing testing around SAP, around Siebel, around many different technologies. And we are also very experienced, and it is not only me saying that. You can have a look at our case studies and at our customer testimonials. We have really, we've been working with many of our customers for like 5 years or so. And a good example is the guys at Swisscom in Switzerland. We started doing performance testing for them like 5 years ago, and we are still running it for them. They haven't even considered actually just having it as a separate department. We actually run the performance testing department. Now, before we go into how to performance test MOS, I would like to talk about our testing capability very briefly. we divide our testing capability into three streams. First one being functional testing, and one of the main services we offer is what it is manual testing. So manual testing, imagine you have all your test manager configured and then you've defined all these manual cases, but running them is, it's very time consuming, and sometimes you say, oh, I'll just skip these ones. Well, you might want to consider maybe sending them to our offshore facility where the daily rates are great and these guys are really, really detailed. We also offer test automation, so we take all these manual test cases you've got, and then maybe you've done some fast forward with them, some fast forward recording, so we take them and then we convert them to coded UI tests. And that's also great for you. We also offer browser compatibility. So we have a lab with different kind of machines, different kind of browsers, and we take that burden out of you. And we also organize workshops, user acceptance test workshops, where we just manage them, run them, and make sure we deliver the report. Second stream we've got is the non-functional stream, and the main service and basically how the company Testhouse started was around performance testing. Here we not only performance test SharePoint applications, but as I said before, many other types of applications. We also offer availability testing, security testing, what we call ethical hacking, and also we arrange workshops for accessibility and usability testing. So these ones are great. We basically take people with certain disabilities, and then we organize workshops where we make sure that your application is accessible, and we also offer usability testing to make sure your application is actually usable and everything is properly arranged and usable. Last stream we offer is the training services. We offer training on testing methodologies such as the ICEP certification from the British Institute of Technology, but more importantly for you, I believe, is that we have our own Microsoft Test Manager training. So we've got all the course material, we've got trainings arranged already, so you might want to check out. I'll give you the details of this training, of these trainings at the end of the session. Now we offer also a service which goes across the board, which is test management service. So basically here what we do is we take over your testing. So you say, well, I want to set up a testing department, but I don't have the experience. So what we do is we take a test manager, we take number of testers, and then we implement your testing methodologies, and then we set up the whole testing facility for you. Now, enough about Testhouse. I'm sure you all know that we are great by now, but let's start talking about what performance is from a performance testing point of view. And I'm going to start by telling you a story about one of our customers. So I went to visit him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, we've been working with them for a fairly long time. So he said, Jose, I've got a problem. The users are complaining about the performance of our application, but to be honest, whenever I log in, the application just, to me, it works just fine. So what do you think is a good performance for our application? What should be the response time? So I go like, well, I don't know what to tell you, because there's no right answer for that question. So at the end, performance is in the eye of the beholder. So if your users think that your application is slow, then that's it, your application is slow. They are not going to use it. And if they don't use it, then that's it, it's a failure for you. So the problem in this case with this customer was that they didn't know how to set the right expectations. So they were coming from a host environment, so everything was black screen, super fast, and then they moved to a very nice web interface with lots of new functionality and lots of usability and so on. But obviously, it's different technologies, web technology, so you cannot expect this kind of technology to go as fast as host, right? So it doesn't matter how much you optimize it, it will never be that fast. So in this case, what I told him is that he needed to set the right expectations to his users. Yes, explain them that you actually have a trade-off. So you've traded some speed by some more usability. Now they've got drop-downs as opposed to having to type //CU to get a list of customers, So, at the end, performance is in the eye of the beholder. Now let's talk a little bit about SharePoint and SharePoint performance testing. So why is my SharePoint implementation not performing? I mean, it looks very simple, right? You just take each one of the components. You take the database, for instance, and then you go and test it very much in detail. You optimize it as much as you can, and then you move to the next component and to the next component. And at the end, everything should work just fine all together, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. And I'm going to use another analogy to explain this better. So, as I said before, I come from the Spanish office, right? So in Spain, we are not exactly early birds, as you would say, and I normally tend to get to the office around 10-ish. So one day I got my my manager. He's based in the UK, so I got him calling me saying, "Hey, what's happening to you? I mean, you might want to consider showing up a bit early in the morning, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, problem is that my car ride takes a long time. So why don't you just get me a Ferrari as a company car, and that way I'll make sure that I get to the office on time." Fortunately, that didn't fly, by the way. But anyway, going back to the analogy. The Ferrari is a beautiful machine, perfectly optimized and super fast. But what happens is that when I leave the house, I'm going to get to the same traffic jams every day. So it doesn't matter how well optimized is this machine, I'm going to get to the office exactly at the same time. So taking this into the SharePoint, you cannot just optimize things independently. You always need to performance test your SharePoint system from an end user point of view. So always trying to get like end-to-end business processes to make sure that the overall system works correctly and the overall system is optimized as opposed to only some parts.